Are you a tutor service that recently got the rude awakening that there is no place in the NSC Sun for you? Recently, Sakai published their fees and registration information for the NSC centres, and it became painstakingly obvious that there is no room for registering a tutor centre. The only two options to register with Sakai are independent private schools and distance education providers. So, with much frustration, I'm sure you're asking, so what is the difference? What is a school, and why are we considered as a school? Well, first off, the South African policy, especially the Schools Act, makes only provision for two education models for learners between the ages of 7 to 15, in other words, grade 1 to grade 9. Schooling at a public or registered accredited private school, or homeschooling provided in the child's home by his or her parents with the use of tutor services where necessary. So any institution that enrolls grade R to grade 9 with face-to-face teaching is a school. If it is not registered with the DBE, it is operating illegally from the Department of Education's perspective. Now, Sakai has nothing to do with grade R to 9, but it may not register institutions that is operating illegally under the above standards because Sakai itself is under the authority of Umalu. So what about grade 10 to 12? Well, now we are in the post-compulsory schooling phase. So a learner does not have to be in school, and the Schools Act does not apply to him or her or their parents anymore. A student may be anywhere concerning their studies, depending on the requirements of the qualification, not the requirements of the law. So if the student is doing the National Senior Certificate, we must consult the owner of the National Senior Certificate about where a student may obtain this qualification. Now, the Minister of Education is the owner of this qualification, and admission to this qualification is explained in the regulations pertaining to the conduct, administration and management of the National Senior Certificate Examination, paragraph 7. A candidate in grade 12 who registers for the National Senior Certificate Examination must comply with the following requirements. He or she must register for tuition at a public or independent school offering the National Senior Certificate, or a learner receiving home education must register with an education provider registered with an assessment body responsible for the conduct of the final National Senior Certificate Examination to ensure that he or she complies. So the Minister allows Umalusi, the custodian of this qualification, to only permit two types of candidates: those attending public or independent schools, or those receiving home education registered with an education provider who is registered with an assessment body like Sakai. Now that means that Sakai is permitted to register only two types of institutions: independent schools and education providers that provide services to home education students. For grade 10 to 12, the policy, though it's not direct by implication, is very simple. Any institution that enrolls full-time learners for grade 10 to 12, where the education of that learner is face-to-face, is a school. It does not matter if the operations during this time is distinct from a normal school functionality, or that the teaching staff are tutors. The candidate is not receiving home education, so the institution is operating as a school and offering the NSC to such candidates. So what about the student who simply does not fit into the norm and is simply not going to receive their best education opportunities in a normal school, or does not have the environment at home to receive their best education opportunities in that environment? What about the countless tutor centres that provided a safe and healthy environment for these kids to be able to complete their matric? Is there really no place in the NSC Sun for them? Well, we believe there is. At Our ROI, we feel we can help. Our ROI is a registered education provider that provides services to home education students for the NSC. So according to the policy, we may register candidates for the National Senior Certificate Examination to ensure that they comply with the program, school-based assessment and external examination requirements. Where these candidates spend their time learning, however, is not prescribed. Since they are past the compulsory schooling age, the School Act has no opinion of where they must receive tuition, And the owner of the NSC qualification is satisfied because such a candidate is registered with an education provider, registered with an assessment body, and the assessment body is still compliant because it is registering an education institution that offers its services to home education candidates or distance education. Where these candidates find a healthy learning environment is up to the discretion of his or her parents and the candidate. If it is in a tutor center, then there are no illegal operations, because the tutor center never enrolled that candidate for a grade in the NSC. It is simply offering the services its name suggests, a tutor service. At Our ROI, we will therefore offer an assessment-only option where we only take responsibility for the program requirements, SPA requirements, and the final exam administration. And where and how the learner learns is completely up to them, whether teacher, tutor, textbook, or YouTube. Whatever works for them to meet the requirements for the SPA and the final exam. This is of course a very affordable option since it reduces our costs significantly because of the limited service we offer. So what does that mean for the tutor center? Well, it does mean that you cannot enroll candidates for the NSC. You are therefore not responsible for the program or SPA requirements or the final exam administration. But you can do what you do best. Create a safe and healthy learning environment to help these wonderful young people obtain a national senior certificate. Whether they attend your services full-time or part-time, you will be 100% legal as long as your business operations are legal. So how can you proceed? Well, unfortunately, you cannot proceed on behalf of the candidate. Candidates have to enroll themselves with a registered distance education provider, and any contractual agreement is with the candidate and his or her parents and the education provider. But you can advise them on which education provider or providers you provide tuition support for. There is no further contract between the tutor and the education provider, unless the candidate nominates them for invigilation services during internal examinations. We know this is not the ideal option, as you would have wanted autonomous control over the candidate's studies. But unfortunately, unless you register as a school, the owner of the qualification sees you as operating illegally in taking such offices. But this does not mean that you cannot continue to do the wonderful work you are doing in helping these young people obtain a qualification that may form a very vital part of their future. Please do call me, Peter, on 081-315-9505 if I might be of any further assistance to help you transition this unsure and challenging time ahead for both you, the parents, and the candidates, or to discuss costs involved. Our ROI is not intending to make money out of this, but rather to continue in the vision and mission that God has for us, to pick up the pieces that has been left by the South African education system. I really look forward to your call. Good luck and God bless.